This is VOA News. Reporting by remote, I'm Joe Ramsey. The White House says U.S. President Joe Biden told Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu he expects significant de-escalation on Wednesday in its military confrontation with the Palestinians amid intense efforts to reach a ceasefire. Airstrikes and rocket fire continue in Gaza in the conflict that has since May 10th claimed more than 225 Palestinian lives, according to the Gaza Health Ministry, and killed 12 people in Israel, according to police there. As diplomatic efforts intensify, Germany says its top diplomat is heading to Jerusalem for talks on Thursday. The U.S., a key Israel ally, has repeatedly blocked adoption of a joint UN Security Council statement calling for a halt to hostilities. It said Wednesday it would not support a proposed resolution calling for a ceasefire, saying it could undermine efforts to de-escalate the crisis. U.S. military officials also said Wednesday Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin urged de-escalation during a call with his Israeli counterpart, but underscored his continued support for Israel's right to defend itself. Nearly 36 U.S. Republican lawmakers in the House of Representatives joined hundreds of Democrats Wednesday voting to create an independent commission to investigate the deadly January 6th attack on the Capitol by then President Donald Trump supporters. Republican leaders had worked to kill a bipartisan bill to establish the commission, but 175 House Republicans did vote against the measure following a request from former President Donald Trump, but 35 from the American Right-Wing Party joined 217 Democrats, the left-wing majority. This is VOA News. The UN Security Council on Wednesday issued a unanimous declaration underlining the need to increase COVID-19 assistance to Africa, in particular by boosting vaccine supplies. The Security Council is expressing concern that Africa has only received 2% of all vaccines administered globally. The Council backs the COVAX sharing program, which provides vaccines for poorer countries, and appealed for accelerated donation of safe and effective vaccine doses from developed economies. A top European Union negotiator said Wednesday a deal is shaping up to bring the United States back into the nuclear deal with Iran, citing progress in efforts to break an impasse. But Enrique Mora says there are still things that need to be worked out after chairing talks between Russia, China, Germany, France, Britain, and Iran. Indirect negotiations between Washington and Tehran have been going on in Vienna since early April, with the other 5 countries in the deal talking directly to Iran. Senior diplomats from the E3, made up of France, Germany, and Britain, echoed the EU on Wednesday in a statement saying they are now beginning to see what a final deal could look like and that this is different from the last meeting. Iran has also said the talks are on the right track. The various sides are due to meet again in the Austrian capital early next week. Diplomats are hoping to get the U.S. back on board before Iranian presidential elections on June 18th. Brazil's Supreme Court ordered an investigation of the country's environmental minister, Ricardo Salles, as police raided his office Wednesday, targeting a timber trafficking scheme allegedly involving him and other top officials in President Jair Bolsonaro's government. Federal police claim to have evidence Salles and other environmental officials were involved in an extremely serious scheme to facilitate the trafficking of rainforest products. Salles has been one of the most controversial figures in Bolsonaro's government and has presided over a surge of deforestation in the Amazon rainforest. And police stepped up a manhunt Wednesday for a Belgian soldier with suspected extreme right-wing views and access to rocket launchers who went missing after threatening public figures, including a renowned coronavirus expert. The federal prosecutor's office said late Wednesday some 250 police officers and soldiers deployed at a national park. The suspect's abandoned four-wheel drive vehicle was found near the park on Tuesday evening with 4 anti-tank rocket launchers and some munition, according to the prosecutor's office. A spokesman for the office says the man disappeared with weapons and left behind a letter containing worrying elements, including threats. Reporting by remote, I'm Joe Ramsey, VOA News. This is VOA News. Reporting by remote, I'm Joe Ramsey. A truce between Israel and Hamas began on Friday at the hour set by Egyptian mediators, and U.S. President Joe Biden pledged to help the devastated Gaza Strip with humanitarian aid after the worst fighting in years. Palestinians poured into Gaza streets late Thursday, many of whom had spent 11 days huddled in fear of Israeli shelling. Mosque loudspeakers feted the victory of the resistance achieved over the occupation Israel during the Sword of Jerusalem battle. In the countdown to the 2 a.m. local time ceasefire, Palestinian rockets continued and Israel carried out at least one airstrike. Each side said it stood ready to retaliate for any truce violations by the other. Cairo said it would send 2 delegations to monitor the ceasefire. The violence erupted on May 10th, and Gaza health officials claim 232 Palestinians, including 65 children, have been killed and nearly 2,000 wounded in airstrikes. Israel says it has killed at least 160 combatants, and authorities put the death toll in Israel at 12, with hundreds of people treated for injuries and rocket attacks that caused panic and sent people rushing into shelters. U.S. President Joe Biden had a day earlier urged Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to seek de-escalation, while Egypt, Qatar, and the United Nations sought to mediate. Biden at the White House Thursday extended condolences to bereaved Israelis and Palestinians and said Washington would work with the United Nations and other international stakeholders to provide rapid humanitarian assistance for Gaza and its reconstruction. Biden said aid would be coordinated with the Palestinian Authority run by Hamas's rival, President Mahmoud Abbas. This is VOA News. A poll released Friday shows young people in Britain no longer think the country should keep the monarchy and more now want an elected head of state, with their moods souring over the last couple of years. The British monarchy traces its history back to William the Conqueror, who invaded England in 1066, though royals ruled the patchwork of kingdoms which stretched across what became England, Scotland, and Wales for centuries before that. According to the survey by YouGov, 41% of those aged 18 to 24 thought there should now be an elected head of state, compared to 31% who wanted a king or queen. While there's no possibility of an end to the monarchy while the queen remains on the throne, there is concern for the royals about a declining support among younger Britons. British Princes William and Harry on Thursday hid out at the BBC and journalist Martin Bashir over the deceitful way Bashir obtained his exclusive 1995 TV interview with Princess Diana, their late mother, in which he detailed her troubled marriage to Prince Charles. Their stinging criticism came hours after an independent inquiry found Bashir had used falsified documents to get his sensational sit-down with Diana, and that BBC leaders had failed to adequately probe how he had arranged it. Williams said the deceitful way the interview was obtained substantially influenced what his mother said on the air and made a major contribution to the demise of his parents' relationship. He added that the BBC's oversight failures had contributed significantly to her fear, paranoia, and isolation in her final years. Diana and Charles, the heir to the British throne, formally divorced in 1996. She died aged 36 in a high-speed car crash while being chased by paparazzi photographers in Paris the following year. U.S. President Joe Biden signed a hate crimes law Thursday aimed at protecting Asian Americans who have suffered a surge in attacks during the COVID-19 pandemic. Biden says the Asian American community has been made a scapegoat of anti-Chinese sentiment since the coronavirus outbreak began in Wuhan, China in 2019. And Canadian immigration authorities said Thursday Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's new immigration pathway for Hong Kong residents has received nearly 6,000 applicants 3 months since its launch. The Canadian government announced last November it would make it easier for Hong Kong youth to study and work in the country in response to a new security law imposed by China on the former British colony. Hong Kong is home to about 300,000 Canadians, one of the largest Canadian communities abroad. Find more on these stories at voanews.com. Reporting by remote, I'm Joe Ramsey, VOA News.